Welcome to Soulful Practices Podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Holling-Brooks, and over the past 20 years, I have been on a journey of healing and awakening. I'm also a coach and practitioner for clients on their journey of unbridling their true self. The number one question I'm asked is, what meditation or practice will help me reach my goals? While there is no one meditation or secret mantra that will unlock our own awakening, there is a doorway that will lead us there. And that's the doorway of learning and cultivating the skills of self-reflection and contemplation. Each episode of this podcast offers you pocket teachings and practices that you can implement right away to help you courageously connect with living your authentic soul-led life. Let's dive into this week's episode. Hello, everybody. Michelle Holling-Brooks here. I am the host of Soulful Practices Podcast, and over the next 4 episodes, we are going to be kind of wrapping up season 4 of Soulful Practices, where we have been working with courageously connecting the act of actually being in relationship, in connection, in conscious choice, which is our greatest superpower, with ourselves and our lives, and really unbridling that ability for us to fully step into a life that we feel is in alignment with us, a life that is something that we love, and ultimately we're willing to lead it. We're willing to show up for it, to be the courage to be uncomfortable is a big theme in our household, and willing to not necessarily get what we want, but to make choices that really are in alignment with who we truly be in our heart center. I have wrote this episode a couple times, and I've actually tried to record it a couple times. And each week I end up having to pause because something else kind of comes up that's so related to this topic that I needed to sit, to be with, to witness, and to watch, and really work through the different layers of what I'm going to be sharing in this episode and in the coming ones. That really I started with last week when we started talking about self-respect. And we brought in that beautiful quote from Eleanor Roosevelt in episode 44 that was that no one has the ability to make us feel inferior without our consent. And really recognizing that that's even in our own inner work. And there's such a parallel between inner work and, quote, the way in which we feed into, just by shifting how we work with ourselves and freeing ourselves up from the subtle ways that we bully and disrespect and dishonor, move from fear instead of love. All of those ways that trap trauma and old, outdated ways of being that did once serve us, but now really don't allow us to live in that full one. They helped us survive, they helped us endure, and yeah, they might have helped to eke out a momentary happiness or a momentary chasing of a dopamine hit, but they didn't sustain us, and they didn't feel really in alignment with who we truly are. And how do we free ourselves up from that, from physical things, emotional, mental, spiritual, and this then goes into all aspects of life. Somebody asked me, like, what is your definition of a healing wellness coach? And I was like, it is that, quote, life coach, but not from that place of like, let's just set a SMART goal that's measurable, specific, attainable, like all these things. Like, no, let's set a heart goal. Let's set the goal that matches our heart and allows us to say, hey, maybe this doesn't match my personal wants, wishes, and desires. Maybe this doesn't feed my ego. Maybe I don't even know how this choice is going to, quote, return to me and help me have that pursuit of liberty and that pursuit of happiness. And I don't see it. And instead, it's that genuine version of happiness. What would that look like? What would that feel like? And there becomes this crossroad point in every healing journey when we recognize that as we are liberating ourselves, as we are starting to be able to not just physically feel better or emotionally or mentally feel better, but we start to actually see the different aspects of us and our thoughts, our past choices with kindness, with compassion. We're willing to see really through humbleness and through that, quote, sacred witness that I call it, energy. And We're willing to see even how our motivations that we used to think were really clean and really clear, we can see the subtle ways that there was a protective mechanism in there. There was a fear leading that choice, dressed up really nicely, but it was still there. We start to be able to honestly take that U-turn look inside, reflect on why we made the choices we made, why we're making the choices we're making right now, why we think that choices aren't available to us, and following that whisper of our heart in not a way that's hands on hips and furrowed brows and shaking its finger at it, but a way of deep love and deep respect of that aspect of us that I call the heart being, and the soul being, of really allowing those to guide us with such love, with such tenderness, to say, hey, what is happening here? What is holding us back? What is keeping us from showing up the way that we know we need to? What's keeping us from allowing ourselves to see an unfortunate truth that we don't want to see? What's keeping us from walking in and really connecting with that beautiful relationship that we have that we're holding ourselves just ever so slightly out of? Like, what is that? And how do we soften that? And how do we shift it so that we can say yes to the movements that want to come in, that yes, we'll have as much, quote, health and wellness and abundance as possible, but yet also is balanced, also understands that we're not in isolation, that we are an interwoven, interconnected being with all beings, humans, all different types of humans, the earth and the resources that the earth has, and the earth as a being, to all the different types of animal and fish and wildlife and birds and insects. Those are also beings. And the ripples and the dominoes just keep flowing. That when we are on that authentic healing journey, at some point our heart wakes up, and at some point our heart says, if I allow myself to honor and respect myself, that means, oh my gosh, I've got to honor and respect not just my past, not just the wounds of my past, but I also need to honor the wisdom of my past. I need to honor my present moment. I need to honor the future that wants to come in all the different forms. I need to respect myself, even if in the past I made choices that I don't really like. And if I started to treat myself with a little bit more respect, whether and irregardless of if anybody else deems that to me or grants that to me or comes and ding, gives it to me through that quote initiation of some other form outside of ourselves, am I still worthy? And that's that first step. That's what we were talking about in episode 45. And actually, the all four seasons of Soulful Practices, you will find this thread in there. And the reason why this particular episode took a shift from where I originally intended it, when I kind of sit and with the seasons and I feel into what wants to come in and what each of those episodes are, I have a pretty broad stroke idea for it. But as this one came closer and closer, mixing with what was happening in the collective, it became pretty clear that this was going to be a little different of an episode. And so this one wants to really focus on what has been coming forward for so many of my clients and for myself, for my children, the conversations that we've been having and holding in the past years, but have really stepped up in the last months and especially this year, which is, how do we hold center? How do we find that balance? If love, Asui, the founder and director of the founder and director, just the founder and the original practitioner behind quote Reiki energy, described Reiki as love. Love was wholeness. Wholeness was balance. Balance is the freedom to be with and not with disease, right? And what does that mean? That means dis-ease is when we're in separation then. Dis-ease is when we're out of balance and we're trying to hold ourselves into dualism. Dis-ease is when we're not honoring and respecting that we are a whole collective, right? And so if you take that definition of love and you bring it into this idea that this energy is a part of each and every one of us, that when we are faced with such unrest, such turbulence, natural disasters that are causing immense amount of pain and loss and suffering to habitat, humans and non-humans all across the board. And we're watching a resurgence of the same horrific patterns of some of the most darkest times of, quote, human beings, mixing with the increase of environmental in distress, environmental disasters, environmental injustice that's happening right now. Mixing all of that together, somewhere in the middle of these clashing storms, we also are being asked to live our everyday lives and to look at how is that life working within the collective with the changes, the wounds that are up right there. How do we also say, I am here, I am in the life that I'm in, I'm alive at this time, I'm working, I'm maybe raising a family or working with a family or a community, right? Engaging in that role of stewardship. Each and every one of us is a steward of our choice. And what are the ripples of those choice? And what are how they impact the beings that are under my quote care? And also for those that are unseen, the ones I will never meet, the ones in the future. How are we governing that choice? All of this is up right now, and it's just absolutely can feel overwhelming and heart-wrenching. And like I said in my last one, the first step, I just wrote a blog about this too called Hope, Honoring, and Respect. That the first step of any healing journey or transformation journey or growth journey, it begins with that hope that things can change. And without hope, that what happens is as we try to transverse our way through the darkness, through a dis-ease, through injustice, through disasters, through whatever circumstances we find ourselves in that we feel are outside of our control, that really ask us to shift, but we don't know how, we don't know where to start, and we don't know how it's going to, we can't see the ripples, we can't see how the cogs and the wheels are going to, quote, give back to us. What is that? What is that going to do? Can I see that my drop, my action, my following that whisper of my heart here is going to equal this there? When we can't do that, how do we stay the course, right? When we collapse, how do we get back up? And hope is a key ingredient in that. Respect is a key ingredient in that. Honoring of life is a key ingredient in that. Without it, we shift into just merely enduring, to collapsing, depressing, detaching, and empathy even more. With hope, with that little inkling that's in there, we start to see that intrinsic, meaning inside desire for something to shift. We start to feel a little spark that somehow, some way we can rise up and we can move into choices that we might not even know that we have, but we're willing to look. We're willing to start dialoguing. We're willing to start saying yes to just the idea that something can be different. That through my choices, I don't know what they might be yet, but I'm willing to do it, that I can start to have a different inner stance, one of hope, one of courage, and one of respecting ourselves, right? And when we do that, that hope and that respect begin to intertwine. They get to interlace in beautiful ways, like cogs of the wheel coming together, creating this braid that is strong and is able to serve as a lifeline for us. And most importantly, it lodges into our heart and it creates a spark that comes down into that will center of us, right? And starts to say, hey, remember, your greatest superpower is the power of your conscious choice. right? And it is also not only our conscious choice, it's our ability to pull back and witness, not just observe, not just have this cold, detached kind of separation between looking at something as the other, right? And this very distant, almost narrated self thing. It's like, no, I'm witnessing, I'm connecting, I'm being with, I'm seeking understanding as a medicine, not just a cold, rational distance. I'm seeking for wholeness, right? And as that spark begins to come in there, we start to be able to shift from feeling like we are stuck with these burdens that we are just hauling around with us. And we start to be able to think like, maybe somehow there's a way for me to hold this differently. Maybe somehow there's a way for me to shift from feeling lost in separation and disease to feeling empowered. And so that little spark of hope turns into an inner momentum, like this little inner combustion chamber that is within us that starts to not only have us start to pull ourselves up from that collapsed position, right? It starts to ask these questions. It starts to call to us and dialogue with us that says, hey, there can be a different way. We can shift from collapse to bringing ourselves. We can, quote, not see ourselves above, but we can bring ourselves into. We can stop folding in on ourselves or getting lost in a hopeless, helpless dance of that shadow victim, and we can start to open to the victim in the guardianship, the guardian of our heart, which is, it is the guardian of truth and the guardian of choice. And when those start to shift within us and we start to see that this guardian is within us that says, hey, tend to the wounds. It's a part of the victim pattern, but it's on that archetypal side of that pattern that is running in a way that is in alignment with our soul. So it's a soul level version of this guardianship that says, yes, tend to the wounds, tend to them consciously, tend to them in a way that's balanced, that doesn't shadow pity them, that doesn't say that they can't do something, oh, poor this, because of this wound, you've lost the ability to do that. Like it doesn't bring any of that. It also doesn't bring that harsh judgment and need for violence and vindication and that old eye for an eye thing. It doesn't do that. It brings us in and says, what needs to be tended to? How can we tend it? What boundaries, what ways of being, of holding ourselves and holding responsibility for how we're going to show up, does that also need to happen? It brings us into a true meaningful change where our heart is guiding us. And it really is helping us engage life from a completely different point of view, whether we're working with a physical issue, an emotional, mental, spiritual, financial, housing, humanity, global, collective, like it goes everywhere, right? It's internal and it's external. And all of a sudden we take on an inner stance, a centering within ourselves that's in alignment with the hope that we can create for ourselves and for others a different future, a future that's more in alignment with hope, respect, and true honoring of self and of others. So each time we're able to find just a spark of that, just one little essence of it, that essence gives us to a choice. And that choice gives us into just even an internal, I think I can, or I want to, an intention, all the way to an action where we move externally in our life to change a habit, to wake up 3 minutes earlier, to take 2.5 seconds to put the keys where we've established for them to be so that they're there in the next time in the future when I'm walking out the door, I don't have that stress response come over me as I go to search for my keys. It can be as simple as smiling and seeing the person who you're interacting with in the checkout line and honoring that they have the same value and worth that you do. It can be smiling towards a part of you you've absolutely beaten up and walled off and exiled and saying, I'm willing to try to see you differently. I don't know if I can, but I want to try. Right? It comes to all those different aspects of us. And from this spark, from this place, from little by little, choice by choice, we start to develop a trustworthy bridge, a bridge that goes through that past pain and fears and protective mechanisms and tribal inherited habits of who we are and how we are. And this is the way the world works. And slowly, little by little, we start to be able to challenge all of that. We start to be able to question that. We start to be able to ask, is there a different way? A way that empowers myself, right? And as we start to feel more inner power and that begins to grow, the natural next step that we stage explore is that we start to shift from just hoping to an inner knowing, not a certainty of this is the way, but a knowing that no matter what happens, even if I absolutely feel powerless, I'm not. That I have an inner capacity within me to turn towards myself, to ask for help internally and externally. And from there, remember that what I feel is broken or causing myself pain or something that I don't want to, that I'm trying to avoid because I don't know what to do with it, or I'm denying it's real because I don't want that truth to sink in because then I'm going to have to shift and change. That when that happens, that we're able to pause and say, hey, I don't want to move with this problem, this issue, this concern, this circumstance the same way I have before. I want to move with it differently. I want to work it differently. I want to meet it differently. I want to move from love, not fear. So, one of the things that I often remind myself of in clients when we find ourselves in these storms of circumstances is that when we move from love, it doesn't mean non-action. It doesn't mean this idea of I turn into a doormat. It doesn't mean this idea of complete neutrality that's so detached that it's apathy. It's shadow peacekeeping and appeasing just to keep a source of discomfort. Well, that's no big deal. This is not real. So, or I'm just going to appease them because I'm going to take the high road and therefore I'm not going to have a boundary or do this. I'm not going to step into action when I see something that my heart is guiding me to work with and to engage. It's actually the exact opposite. We're not going to shadow peacekeep. We're not going to shadow appease. We're not going to disengage to a place of apathy and false, messy neutrality, right? We're actually going to go deeply in. One of my favorite quotes is by Thomas Merton, who was a modern day mystic. And ironically, he was kind of known for being a hermit, a mystical hermit. However, he was deeply connected and deeply in, and he was a teaching mystic, right? And so even as he was a hermit, he was also a writer and a teacher and spoke that way and really reached beyond his tradition of where he was kind of housed under, which is a Christian mystic, but he very much went to the other wisdom teachings and brought that into his space and actually transcended that quote religious trapping, right? And showed up in a place that is from his book Love and Living. And that is love is our true destiny. We do not find the meaning of life by ourselves. We find it with another. Let me just say that again. Thomas Merton wrote in his book, Love and Living, love is our true destiny. We do not find the meaning of life by ourselves alone. We find it with another. To me, when I feel into this, it's reminding me that one, healing happens in connection. So any true healing that only is coming towards ourselves, that healing is not housed in wholeness, right? Any true healing that separates me from them, makes me quote right and the other person wrong, that also is not housed in true healing. And that if love is our destiny, and that is the meaning of life, that what we're really up to is in each of our life is how do we do this dance that I mentioned earlier? How do we meet, deeply connect with what is happening in each moment of our life? And the seemingly uncontrollable realities of what's happening in life with the North Star, that guiding star within us to meet it with love. If we could do that and we're willing to connect into our life through that energy and say, this is our meaning, this is our purpose. How do I meet this day, this moment? How do I tackle the big things and the little things? How do I work with the different questions that are available to me right now in my life of how I'm going to work with honoring and respecting myself and others. How do I want to work with myself even as I'm, quote, trying to heal something in my life that I feel is wounded, or something externally where a wound has happened? How do I work with that, with this North Star energy illuminating the unseen past that the mental part of me can't always see, the ego part of me definitely gets lost in. My survival systems want us to dilute down to the tribal version of circle the wagons and scarcity and control and comparison and devaluing of self and other, right? How do we hold that? And Merton suggests that it's not in separating ourselves or disconnecting from the discomfort that we are seeing in ourselves, parts of ourselves. So we can't look at the scrape that's on our hand and judge it and hate it no more than we can look at something outside of ourselves that we view as a problem with judgment and hate, right? So then how do we work with the images that we see? I know right now in the US, it is probably what I would feel like if I had been alive in Europe back in the wars. This is probably what it felt like. You know, our country is young. We're turning 250, and we are experiencing much of the turmoil that other countries and other nations have experienced. Images of disbelief, of thinking we're farther along in equality and understanding that the suffrage movement and the civil rights movement and the equality of allowing ourselves to have basic rights, that liberty and pursuit of happiness for all, like these things we thought we were in one place with, and we're quickly getting to see that we are not there. We are not there at all. Environmentally, we are not there. Humanity-wise, we are not there. We are not in a place of respect and honoring. We are in a place of take. We are in a place of tribal warfare. We are in a place of injustice and suffering. And all of these issues are present. And as a mom to two daughters, one of them I was filling out in the last few weeks, um, college applications with. And what I realized is that every state school we were applying to, I had to help her change her essay and look at these words that have been banned, like words like advocacy, words like woman, words like environment. Like these are real words that are part of her mission that we had to find ways to finesse around so that her application would make it through an AI generated bot so that she could receive an education from a state school. These are the times that we are in, and how does that, what does that make us do then individually? What is present for us? What are the ways that we are trying to safeguard ourselves and manifest our personal destiny? My right to have liberty, justice, and pursuit of happiness, right? And the desire that we do have within us, it is natural for us to want to say, okay, well, I can just focus on me and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have as much joy and much love and much abundance as possible. Yes, and right? And so how do we do this dance? for you, and if you're listening to this and you're in another country, maybe this is a dance that you have been collectively working with in your community for a very long time. The US has had a luxury, an illusion that this wasn't certain parts of the people, maybe not all the people, probably not all the people, but certain aspects of people have been able to hide in this luxury, and that luxury is now gone. And so it could feel like there's a way that, how do we do this? How do we move in this space to match and align our own personal self with our healing of the collective self? And so here, my friends, is the uncomfortable truth. Right? The uncomfortable truth is that as we allow ourselves the permission to pursue happiness and liberty, and to be able to fully live a life that we love, that we feel is in alignment with who we truly be, as we give those permissions and that power to ourselves, the stage, the crossroads that we come to is that our heart is going to open up. And as our heart begins to open up to ourselves, the next thing is it really is up to is opening us to see not only ourselves, but to see others too. And from that seeing and feeling and honoring each other and ourselves at the same time, to me, that's what Merton is cueing to. It's not about just discovering love in my own and giving it to myself. It's also not about just discovering that I can have love and empathy and desire for another to not suffer. It's about, how do we bring both together in connection with the other? How do we allow that to be there and to pursue that together, right? When we do this, we go from feeling even more. So one of the things that I think happens on the spiritual journey is we think that we're going to be able to transcend our emotional body. We think that we're going to be able to have this place where we don't aren't as impacted, aren't as touched when we witness suffering, or we see the pain, or we see an injustice. And while in a way, I guess that's true, but the reality is what happens is we are going to feel more, not less. And so it's, how do we hold the capacity to hold this beautiful center while waves crash and move? And yet we can hold a center that has deep empathy, deep sympathy, deep compassion, and fortitude, and ability to have that courage and strength to hold on to love, not just conviction of my way is the right way, right? Like, what does that look like? What would that feel like? There have been people that have been able to hold this line, and we would do good to kind of take in and see what they want. But what really happens is, the more that we feel, the more that we heal, the more that we give ourselves love, that all of a sudden we are no longer able to have masks on, to see the world through certain kind of quote trauma goggles, through the tribal lens goggle, through the scarcity lens goggle, through the power and control, the win-lose dualistic world goggle. All these different lenses start to come down, and it's pulled back, and we're asked to witness ourselves and our life and others through the eyes of the sacred witness, steeped in radical, pure essence of love. The type of love that isn't just endorphin, you make me feel good, therefore, oh my gosh, I love how we feel together kind of way, but the true essence of love that is not housed in, do you make me feel good, not housed in pity, not housed in what can you give to me that will support me, but rooted in this true connection, honoring, and deep respect that invites us into finding a way forward that dissolves every defense mechanism and protective tribal mechanism that we have. Our system knows this. If we allow this into our heart, even for 1 nanosecond, it's this pure essence of a way. It knows that every defensive mechanism that allows us to separate ourselves into me and the other comes down, and it replaces it with a a strong yet vulnerable love that's rooted in, quote, kindness. And kindness by the true definition of the word, which means sameness, meaning I am going to treat everything the same. I'm going to give what I give to myself. This is, do unto others as you want done unto you. I'm actually going to put that into play. And this is a very tricky, fragile moment, not only for ourselves, but for how we engage with the world, because it's about to come down. The way that we figured out how to hold ourselves together up into this moment in a healing journey is somewhat contained. But once this energy of love starts to have its quote way with us, we know that we're at a true crossroads. There's a feeling inside of ourselves. It's a nervousness and excitement, shakiness, maybe even all the way out to a sense of dread or panic or loss that we can't quite put our finger on. But there is a true knowing in our system that says, hey, if we go one more step, if we allow our heart to keep healing, that means it's going to keep opening. And if it keeps opening, if we continue down this journey, we really will start to unbridle ourselves, take off all these restraints that we've had on how we truly want to live, who we are being guided to be, not just who we personally want to be, right? It's not going to appease our ego and just make us feel good. We start to recognize that our highest potential in life, our destiny in life, is not about what can we gain, what can we do, or our legacy, or all these other things. It's actually about love. It's actually about, how did I show up for myself today? Did I abandon self? Did I step into it? Did I hear those pauses from the quote inner angels within me that said, hey, pause, step back, allow yourself to see what's up, to move when we feel guided to move, right? To smile and soften when we feel guided. And ultimately, we know the egoic part of ourselves, which is not bad. It's a beautiful part. We need a healthy, strong ego, but we also need an ego that's willing to detach from just personal gain and comfort and personal manifestation of what we want. And that my spirituality is that it will give me what I want, because this is what I want, and I'm worthy because I'm worthy, because I've done this, because I've done that, because I'm a good person, because of whatever. Like that's how we're justifying. And if that's our spirituality, if that's our healing and wellness practice, it's not going to get us too far, because it can't, because this is the road where it's going to hit, and it's going to say, hey, are you willing to not get what you want in order to be in alignment? Are you willing to step into discomfort? Are you willing to let go of this dualistic win-lose battle and framework and say, I'm going to move with the way that my heart wants me to move for myself and for all life, right? And there's just a part of us that gets scared. There's a part of us that thinks like, holy cow, I can't do that. That's too much perfection, too much this, too much that. What if I end up like, you know, destitute, alone, and sitting, rocking on the side of a road somewhere? It just really thinks that that's what's going to happen, because that's what we've been conditioned to think will happen. That's what we're conditioned. It's sitting in our DNA. It's sitting in our nervous system, the way it was developed over generations of unresolved trauma, that says, if you go against the tribe, you're going to die, right? And that it's my tribe or your tribe, but it can't be both of ours coming together and evolving together. And so we separate, and we try to step back our actual healing journey, and we try to once again dive deeper into the fixing. Healing is fixing. Healing is reestablishing personal power. Healing is manifesting what I want. Healing is liberty and happiness for ourselves, right? Healing is my bank account gets bigger, my house gets bigger, my job title and accolades get bigger, my relationships get bigger. Like that's like supersize-itis is what we try to replug ourselves into, but the plug doesn't fit, because our heart has woken up, and there's a deep knowing that happens within us that says, wow, I have to find a yes and. There's a cosmic heart starting to wake up in addition to my personal heart. And that personal heart is so important. I love to pause right here when clients ask me to dive into this part of the journey. And I say, remember, the first part of this journey matters. We have to win back our body. We have to win back the idea of hope. We have to win back that our personal voice or thoughts or wishes or desires have value, have merit. We've got to win back respect, right? That is the first part of every journey, and it's a beautiful place to be. We got to get a little narcissistic to say, whoa, what are my thoughts? What are my desires? What are things that I'm okay with, and what are things I'm not okay with? What are things that I have just accepted as that's my worth because it's sitting in a title, but what if my worth isn't in a title? What if my worth isn't in a role? What if my worth isn't in the exchange I'm willing to make with somebody? And that part of the journey is so powerful, and it's why it has to go first. We have to believe that hope, that honor, and that respect has to come online first. But we don't want to stop there, because if we stop there, then we are stuck, and the narcissism grows, and the fear grows, and the circling of the wagon grows, and the feeling of we're content, but not in a good way, of complacency starts to grow. And that as we become more complacent, we start to worry more about scarcity. We start to worry about more competition. We start to create me and the other. And we're right back where we were with the division of ocean, right? Of separating ourselves from where we were. Or we can keep going. And the keep going is to answer that inward call that's saying, hey, there's a deeper, more meaningful way to work with healing and awakening. And as we start to open to that, I can feel it right now as I'm talking. It's like the stirring of the heart. And as we begin to open to that stirring of the heart and get curious about it, then we start to open up to what I call grounded self-empowerment. So the first one is like, I can, hold my ground and I can speak my truth. I can hold my ground and I can speak my truth. I can hold my ground for the causes that I feel guided to, and I can speak my truth for them, right? We're pretty good with that first stage once we get to this point. And it feels amazing. And we have to be able to go from that collapsed place to this place of open, to this place where we feel that. And just feel that. That's step one. Step two is, am I willing to let my heart keep cracking open to the mystical heart? And when I say cracking open, it's a gut-wrenching little journey of awakening, of a breaking open from the personal heart on that journey of transformation, true transformation into the mystical heart, into the path of the sacred witness, right? And so you might be thinking, Michelle, what is the mystical heart? Like, tell me the difference. Like, what's the personal heart and what's the mystical heart? And like, how do I know the difference? Well, the personal one is me. Like, that's me without all the shadowy, drippy things. It's where I can just clearly say, yeah, a part of me feels this way, a part of me feels that way. Part of me wants this. This is my preference. This is what I prefer. This is what I love. This is what I don't love. It's all these things where we can say, this is my personal wants and my personal needs. These are the things that I would like to have happen. Of course, I don't want to be dealing with any of that. Of course, I wouldn't want suffering in the world. This is what I love and intend to, and this is what I want to direct my time to and my treasure and my resources, right? It's that quote idealistic version of me that's not dripping and feeling like it owes anything or it has to exchange anything. It feels really good on its own. And it can get angry, it can get sad, it can get mad, it can, all these things, right? That personal sense of self. This is how I view the world. This is what my opinion is. This is what my preference is. This is kind of what my current working beliefs are. We need that. We need to climb that quote Mount Everest and plant our flag on the top and say, this is the mountain of me, right? And and that is absolutely necessary because it's the only way we can have true self-respect. And if we don't plant that flag on the mountain of me, then we can't really honor the mountains of others. We can't see them because we're always going to be wanting to be seen. We're going to need external validation from somebody else. Do I have the right to feel this way? Do I have the right to think this way? Do I have the right to show up that way? This disease is in my system. What does that mean I did wrong? What do I need to do to fix it? Like all these other things. This, this is the financial wall that I'm hitting. This is the this, that, and the other that I'm hitting. These are the stances. These are the ways I'm like boxing with myself, and I don't even see it. It's the shadow. And so reestablishing that willingness to see ourselves is the step one. Almost every teacher will say, know thyself. Teresa of Avila, who I absolutely love, she's one of my quote main mystical teachers. That interior castle, she has 3 hinges, and the first hinge is self-knowledge. Are we willing to be self-knowledge? The second hinge is humbleness. Are we willing to be humble? And what does that mean? Like, not that we're like, oh, we're not good enough. It's actually, no, I realize my worth is there, right? And I can take feedback. And I can have spirit pop up next to me and go, Michelle, you know, this part, great. Let's clean this up a little bit. Or like, hey, I really need you to step into this energy. And it's going to require you to hold center with opinions that are not going to match yours. It's going to require you to be humble enough to, yes, do the U-turn and look, and then hold when you get that answer, right? And the humbleness comes in like, how do you hold that center? Do you hold it with comparison and scarcity and control and fear guiding you? Or do you hold it with love? They feel very, very different, right? So these protective aspects of us just get really nervous. They don't think this is real. They don't think that that exists. They think we're going to lose the mountain of self that we found on that first part of the journey. And they're just willing to fight. They're willing to fight to the death within us, and we end up feeling like taffy just getting pulled apart within us of like worrying, like, are we going to lose ourselves if we start to open up to this cosmic heart? So what is this cosmic heart that I'm speaking of? This cosmic heart, this mystical heart, this quote, greater than self, meaning it goes beyond my own personal wants, wishes, and desires, is that we're allowing ourselves to give the same thing we gave to ourselves here, but we do it to the other. So when I sit in my space right now, that every being that I'm in relationship all has the same worth and value, that I can't take that away if I don't like it. And I can't take it away if I don't agree with that. I can't take it away if somebody made me mad. I can't take it away if somebody made me disappointed. I can't take it away if, I'm at this place of displeasure, right? It's like, no, that worth stays. That blessing stays. I truly need to be able to open up to that. And then if that's true, then it's like your life or the life of another being has as much worth as mine. And if that's true, then that means the same way I would to allow and respect myself is the same way I'm going to allow and respect you. And the same way that I would honor that in me, I'm going to honor that in you. And all of a sudden, here we are at this fear place that says, I'm going to have to love. I'm going to have to love beyond my family. I'm going to have to love beyond my community. I'm going to have to love those that I agree with and those I don't agree with. I'm going to have to love the earth and the environment and see beings differently, not just the idea of, yeah, I love all beings, it's amazing, peace, peace and love all over the place. But I actually now have so many choices. So this means the way I'm going to show up in my choice of what I purchase is going to shift and change. This means the way that I'm going to show up in my own space of how I'm going to utilize the resources. All of this is going to change. All of a sudden, and I can feel this energy too. It's like a nervous, like, oh, like a clenching is trying to happen to the heart. We realize there's no stopping it. It just ripples out into every single thing. So we'll have that survival response will still be there. Why? Because that's a part of our wholeness. We'll feel the personal response now because we've excavated that. We put that on board. And we're also going to hear our heart and our soul inviting us to sometimes challenge those first two things and invite us into another perspective, into another way. So the beliefs that we love, we feel so safe with, and we feel are true, and we feel are right, and we feel are valid, it's going to maybe ask us to tweak them. And that this is there just as much as my preference is now there. That all these things are starting to come in. So it's all of a sudden we realize, oh, snap, what my heart is asking me to awaken to, what it's trying to rip itself open and in half, and it feels completely gut-wrenching and over the top, out of control, is it's actually inviting me to a deeper capacity to love and to move from love, not only for myself, but for everything. And our protective mechanisms are trying to manage that. They're trying to dull it out. They're trying to say who, what, when, where, why. Why? Because they're trying to protect us because sometimes it feels too much, right? It feels like I can't take one more image. I can't take one more emotion. I can't take one more whisper in my ear to ask me to show up in a way that's going to require me to let go of something and to not seek armies and just to hold center on my own and not invite in all these people to bolster me. Like I'm going to have to hold that on my own. Like it's going to ask me to reach out to community and be vulnerable in certain times, in certain ways. It's going to continuously ask me to shift my inner stance, to show up for myself and for others in ways that, quite frankly, feel uncomfortable. And that every ounce of that energy that moves us more from love and not fear, it just feels like it's more potential for hurt. It's more potential for loss. It's more potential for isolation and separation. It's more potential for um, uh, not having anybody who sees us or validates us or holds us the way that it used to. Each one asks us into a deeper level of self-sovereignty. And the fear is we're going to be alone. But again, this is where Merton said, it's not about being alone. It's about deeply connecting. And so we have the capacity to hold the grief. We have greater capacity to hold the love. We have greater capacity to hold the fearful parts of us in a different way. And we have a greater capacity to hold the parts of us that are not lost in fear. They can see, they can hear, they can work. Right? So in a wake of all of the turbulence, it's not that the turbulence goes away, it's our ability to transverse through it. That's what shifts and changes. It's our ability to hold center in the storm. That's what shifts and changes. So the healing and awakening journey isn't about removing these turbulent parts of our life. It isn't about removing the storms. It's about being able to walk straight into it with a center that can hold based off of love. It's about allowing ourselves to move from a place of separation and an old protective or wounded part of us driving us without our conscious choice, springing up off the bench and just like running onto the field of life and showing up that way while parts of us are screaming, stop, pull back, right? Or parts of me don't even know to say to it, stop. I don't want to show up this way until we're like halfway through. Then we're like, how am I here? But then we're there and then we double down, right? Or the parts of us that don't move and we watch an injustice, right? Or we don't see a person, a being. And so when that happens, we feel embarrassment, we feel guilt, we feel shame. And instead of allowing those energies and those emotions to move us towards wholeness, we let them separate us. And then we end up searching for something to come rescue us, or we look for something to help distance us even more. And this is why I call this a really tricky part of the journey, because this is where we can accidentally slip into what's called spiritual bypassing. We can step into subtle justifications and phrases that are not actually designed to be with, not truly allow us to transverse, but are trying to like hop above the fray, so to speak, and just cut it off to give the appearance of transcendence of emotions like grief or rage or disappointment or preferences, and hide in non-dualistic non-attachment, but really it's apathy and overwhelm and avoidance. And they're just swirling inside of us, mixing with those unresolved emotions and messengers of grief and rage and disappointment and sadness and desire and wants and preferences, all swimming below the surface, right? So how do we avoid this? Well, we don't. We move into it. That's like me not burying the lead. This is not about, again, trying to ohm our way out of this reality. It's about how do I build, again, the ability to stand with it so that in the face of, quote, triggers of these inner wars, in the face of looking at what we're up to as a collective and humanity, that again is so heartbreaking, and there are so many outcries, and I have to hold myself because I am not balanced enough yet to go into that place externally, but I am balanced to the point where I can say there is something that each and every one of us is being asked to do in different ways, whether that's just an internal way or being able to show up in a way that honors and respects who's in our community. Whatever that looks like for you, there is something here. Why? Because you're alive right now. And if, like Merton says, if love is our collective destiny, not to learn how to do it in separation. I love the people that I love and all the other, but no, in connection. How do we do that? Right? That's what we're up to right now. And if you have gotten this far in this podcast, you are somebody who wants to learn how to transverse this in a way that honors all these tricky, seemingly fragile pathways as you're navigating coming up this mountain, right? And you're navigating, okay, I want to not only put me at the top of this mountain, I want to put a flag that says other. I want to put a flag that says spirit. I want to put a flag that says love. I want, all of a sudden I have my prayer flags that are like creating this tapestry of prayers with each wind in essence that comes in there. But I truly want to find a way to personally balance, to personally have the pursuit of love and liberty and happiness. And I want to help create that same pathway for all beings so that we can all heal together, so that we can all grow together, so that we can all change and transform into a collective new real level of consciousness, right? That sticks, that quote holds in a good way. And out of this place, really allowing ourselves to unlock our personal destiny and our collective destiny. Both. And it's possible. This is the task that we're up to. This is the task that I know for me, often I just want to tap out of it. I want to pause. And so it's okay to pause. It's okay to love ourselves and to nourish ourselves and to manage rest, right? And we need to move at the same time. So how do we do that? How do we move? It's not about taking out the images. It's not about trying to create narratives or stories of what's happening or what choices are there. It's not about turning away and trying to seek refuge in distractions or just only focusing on self-manifestation and subtle separations. It's about moving in. So this is a practice that I call arriving. And I've shared a different versions of this in different ones, but what really came through today of what wanting to be shared for our practice for this week is a way that you can help work with this in little pieces or you can work with it all together. And I tried to come up with a arriving narrative that will, and I'll have a link to this. I'm going to put this in my blog so that you can hop over there if you're listening to this in one of the podcast locations, that you can hop over and you can have the words for this too. But I invite you right now just to soften. Because again, if you are in this space and you are listening to this, you are on a journey of awakening to that true mystical heart, which is I honor the divine in me and the divine in you. Namaste. I bow to the mystery in you, and I bow to the mystery in me. I bow to the light in you, and I bow to the light in me. So how do we do that? Each every day, we have an opportunity to arrive. And when I find myself pulled out of my body, I can always arrive back there. I can use the breath as that metaphor, that remembrance. Oh, I'm tight. I'm nervous. I'm overwhelmed. I'm angry. I'm lost. I'm disconnected. I'm stuck in apathy. I feel too like in a tsunami of emotions that I don't even begin to know. I'm overwhelmed. This is a prayer that you could say. So help me arrive today. Help me arrive into this moment with the parts of me that are scared and lost and fearful. And let them know that I see them and I understand. Help me be with the parts of me that are up in arms and ready to fight and to defend and are angry and they don't know who or what or where to target that anger. And it's seething through them. Let them know that I see them and I understand. Help me be with the parts that are weary and tired. They are depressed and feel hopeless and helpless. Let them know that I see them and I understand. Help me be with the parts that want to hide and write stories as to why they're not enough. They've been too wounded, too this, too weak. They're recruiting allies to come behind their stances and their beliefs. Let them know that I see them and I understand them. Help me be with the parts that are not lost, that are not blind, that are not trying to be in a defense mechanism, that they are able to see and be with and guide and let me know how to move from love. Let them know that I see them and I understand. Help me be with the silences. Because in those silences, I'm going to be met with discomfort and desires and protective mechanisms to disconnect, to fight, to run, to appease, to push away. Help me meet those pauses and the discomfort that's in them. Let them know that I see them and I understand. Let me be with love, with courage and willingness to move from this place. Let me know that I am seen and I am understood by this loving energy that is holding me. Help me move from this place. Help me wake up. Help me exhale and know when I am moving from fear. I want to know. Let me see it. Let me understand it so that I can open to what is happening within me. So I will pause, soften, exhale, and release, and open to love once more. This is my prayer. This is my intention. This is my hope. I open now to any guidance, action, and ways of being that would be helpful for me to focus on today. Let's take breath in and out. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And so it is. Know that you can practice this in any ways. Make these words your own. The words are just a starting place, an entry point, a connection. But this arriving practice helps us remember to come inward, to stop trying to move outward, to shift, to move, to please, to anger, to flight, to fight. It reminds us to come in, arrive into this moment. What is here? What is happening right now? And again, know that we are the guardians of hope. We are the peaceful, quote, warriors of love. We, not some other, are the agents of change. We are the healers. It starts within us with a willingness to turn inward and heal ourselves. You are the seekers, the mystics, the healers and the warriors. And I see you. And I honor you. And I am here with you and with spirit. Know that you are not alone, that your personal healing journey matters. Our collective healing journey matters. And together the two travel, interwoven, interlocked, supporting each other when the other one stumbles, and lifting each other up. This path is not easy, but this path is worthy. And like Teresa of Avila said, that beautiful mystical lover, activist of her time, the path requires us to walk with a humbleness to seek self-knowledge, a willingness to be taught and guided, and allowing ourselves to let Spirit show us the shadow, the things we don't want to see, so that from there we can choose how to move through it, connecting deeply in our lives, unlocking our global and collective destiny and sacred work to move from love, not fear. And so it is. Offering you light, love, and joy until the next one. I'd love to hear what comes forward from these practices from you. This is Michelle, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for listening to Soulful Practices. For more information on how to work directly with me or one of my guests, check out the show notes below. We'd love for you to also let us know what parts of this episode are speaking to you and how this practice is supporting you on your healing and spiritual journey. Please share this podcast with fellow seekers, travelers. Together, we can create a wave of soul-led beings in this world, offering you light, love, and joy on your journey. Michelle Holling-Brooks. Until next time.